A24 agreed to make this movie, and now we're here with this movie. So.
And it's unusual for a first-time director to get a two-picture deal like that.
Totally. I don't. That all was like a fairy tale. It was like a dream come true because it was like A24. I thought they were so cool, and then they wanted to release Creature, my movie, and then they read the script to my next movie, and they wanted to make it, and it was like, I don't know, so blessed.
So, just, you don't have to tell me exact amount, but ballpark figure, the budget for this film, over $1 million.
Yes.
So you're looking at more than 10 times the budget of Creature.
Creature was like, our production budget for Creature was $35,000, like right in that range. It went up a bit in post because of the sound and score and everything else, but totally different. But the funny thing is it didn't feel that different. In general, it did. Because it's like, this is like, I would say it's not over $5 million. It's under it. I don't even, like, maybe I can say, I don't know. I never asked anyone if I can talk about the budget, but it's still, it was the budget that was appropriate to the story, you know? So it's like, once you're in it, making it, like, the budget's don't even, every now and then you'll get a moment like, oh wow, all these people are here to do my little thing I wrote. Like, that's really surreal and amazing, but most of the time you're just in it, and you're just making the movie, and if, like, making this, a lot of the time felt just like Creature, but longer, you know?
Well, because it's like one house.
Yeah, exactly.
In a sense.
In this, they're both primarily one house and everything.
There were no sets, or
No.
did you use sets?
No sets. The closest thing to a set we got was like the door was built in that hallway. We like built the frame and the red door, but you know it was still all part of the house and everything. That was about it.
Because a red door kind of signifies like welcome.
Sure.
And in this one, it's kind of like the opposite. It's like you don't want to know who's on the other side of the red door.
You could say, yeah. You could even say it signifies welcome into maybe Travis's nightmares or something, and like confronting the horror of the experiences you're in, which is interesting. But yeah, I don't know. That red door, it was like, it just made sense to me. It's like the portal. It's like the portal to the confrontation of everything that's going on in Travis's mind, and it's like the gateway to the unknown.
In many ways, he's kind of like the main character because I think one of the crucial scenes is that late night dinner, or he obviously walks around the house a lot at night, and he runs into Kim, who's imagining that she's having bread pudding, but that the reaction shots, like there's a specific point, I think, in that scene where you change the camera angle to their faces. It's almost like we've entered a new beat because there's obviously an attraction there.
Totally.
There's a young guy. I don't know if you've ever seen this film, The Savage is Loose. George C. Scott. It's like he and his wife and their son are on a deserted island, and the son has grown up and is now a man and has made like a woman out of sticks and stones in a cave and is cooking it. And the mother just basically it's incestual.
Yeah.
And George C. Scott directed it, but it kind of brought back that feeling like, what do you do when you're a guy?
Yeah.
And you must have all these feelings. And anyway, that tension for me took over the entire film.
That's great.
At some point, I was almost wondering if he was going to kill his family and her husband.
Yeah.
You just never know in a film like that.
You never know. It could go any way. And I think it's sort of like, I see Travis as the main character, and I think he's an observer too. Like a lot of how we shot stuff is sort of like my interpretation of how he would be interpreting it, if that makes sense. And then also it's his nightmares linking the whole movie, and his nightmares are like processing his surroundings, whether that's, you know, this new woman, you know, and the hormones he's going on with, or the death of his grandfather, or his fear of death and this disease. You're totally right.
And there's not a lot of actors in the movie.
No,
I mean, other than the six people plus the grandfather, and then the two guys who get
it's like 8 or 9 total.
So that must be easy, just not having to worry about, you know, flying in so and so or everybody.
Totally.
I assume the main 6 people are there for the entire duration of the shoot.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And then it was pretty simple. I'd say though, the thing with that is it's just more, maybe it's more of a challenge creatively to keep that tense and exciting when something's so minimal, you know what I mean? Like it's one house with like 6 people. We got to keep that interesting. So, but Krisha, the movie I made before, was the same kind of thing. It was like one house, but there were more people in it. But yeah.
How did you get hooked up with Drew Daniels?
Oh, my boy. We got hooked up because back when I made the Krisha short film, the budget for that, I was trying to make a feature. That's a whole other long story, but the budget, I had saved like $7,000 my own money, and we had, I think, 5 days to shoot. And the budget was so low. I had a friend that had a Red camera, and I was like, will you DP it so we can use your camera for free? And he was busy. He was like, I can't do it, but if you use this guy, you can have my camera. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll use him. And that turned out to be Drew. Mm-hmm. And we happened to like hit it off like crazy and have the same exact taste. And he's super talented. Now we made this movie together too. And I love that guy. He's my buddy, and I think he's amazingly talented. And the coolest thing is we just like have the same taste and we see eye to eye, but then also can push each other creatively when we need to. He's also a Texas dude. But yeah.
No, the look of the film, because I was always told that it's really difficult to shoot against wood, like browns and stuff. And a friend of mine who worked like on set design told me that. He goes, you never want to shoot because you just don't capture it right.
Sure.
They never do. And so I'm always interested when I see films that do that.
Yeah.
And but I guess you have a lot of latitude using the Alexa.
Yes, which was, we'd always talked about shooting film for this movie because it felt timeless. And to me, the story kind of feels timeless, but I don't know. And then we couldn't do it because of budgetary reasons, but in that we realized film was never right because like we couldn't have shot the way we did with film. I think with what we did with the Alexa, it was like literally would be lit by one hand turner, just the flashlights and positioning flashlights and scenes and playing with that practical lighting. And like the Alexa was amazing for that.
Now you said you tweaked out the lantern with a higher wattage bulb, or
exactly.
like 1,000 watts, or
we would give it buff. I can't remember exactly how much, but sometimes it would just be like an extra panel inside here or something, or sometimes like an attachment on the front where you couldn't see it. They would just give it more buff, and it would just help play with shadows and feel the space a little bit more. But you didn't even need to, like you could still see stuff just with the sheer lantern, but we wanted more of like a shadow play and feeling the environment and the way it hits the wood and everything in the house.
When you were editing the film, Travis's first dream, that's the real scare point of the movie, because it's just like, boom, it's just like in your face. So each time he has a dream, I'm kind of bracing myself for scared. It's not really as scary, but it's more elaborate, like it's a dream within a dream.
Yes.
And so is that something that you found in editing, or did you originally conceive of it that way?
I'd say yes. I didn't, because you never know, you know what I mean? Like I thought the first dream would be scary, but you never know if it's going to be scarier than the rest or anything. But I'll say in editing, 100%, we felt like that first nightmare was like the scare moment, and then like you're kind of bracing yourself every time another one comes up. But the interesting thing is like when they come up, almost throughout, they become less about the scare and more about like what Travis is going on in his mind, if that makes sense. And I kind of see the whole movie in the same way, in the sense of like the movie gets less traditional horror as it goes on. Like it starts with that scary jump scare and all of that and all this craziness, but then at the end it's just like, well, I can't spoil anything, but it's like people and sort of like the tragedy of the situation and like kind of minimal and stuff. So it's interesting. I think the nightmares follow that a little bit, in the sense of like they're less about the horror of it and more about like how it's functioning in this kid's head. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Peter Bruegel is the artist. Mm-hmm. That's Peter Bruegel the Elder, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Is it Triumph of Death?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With the A24 sent out a card.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when I opened, I thought Hieronymus Bosch.
Sure.
But, and then last night, one of the women who asked a question said Goya. So
yeah.
there is this tradition
Yes.
of like horrific painters, but yeah, where did the inspiration come to use the Bruegel paint?
It's so funny. The Bruegel in particular
Bruegel.
was like, it was just once again a personal thing. It was because I grew up in my grandparents' house. I'm sorry, I didn't totally grow up there, but that's like my memory in childhood, and it's a lot like the house in the movie. It's called Pew Acres. My grandpa was like, he was in World War II, and he was a prisoner of war and escaped. But he had like war paraphernalia on the walls and rifles and guns, and he had Bruegel paintings. He didn't have Draft of Death, but he had Hunters in Snow and another one that I forget the name.
He escaped from a German POW camp,
Yeah.
and he got back to safety.
He lived a whole life and everything. Yeah, he got back to safety. Crazy story. He did, family hit him out. That's actually how my aunt Krisha got her name, because their daughter's name is Krizia, and then they named Krisha after her. And yeah, incredible story. But escaped, lived his life. But I always remember my grandma saying, like, he was a totally different guy before the war and after the war. And what I thought was really interesting is he wasn't like a talker, and he wasn't like an emotional guy. But the way I see it, anyways, is like if you looked at his house, it was sort of like he had a room too with so much paraphernalia of everything. And it was like family pictures and war. And to me, it was like what he was going on internally was like on his walls, and that was how he expressed it. And that was fascinating to me. But I remember like being a little kid, seeing the Hunters in the Snow painting above the fireplace, where I think like these old medieval weapons on either side of it. And then that led me to this painting called Triumph of Death, which I believe he painted around Black Death and the bubonic plague and everything. And it combined with like when I started writing this, and then my dad's passing, and everything, it all became one. You know what I mean? That's sort of how it led to that painting, but it didn't start with just like studying horrific paintings. It was more just like a personal thing. And like my grandpa had these paintings, and then I found this painting because of that. And yeah.
Yeah,